Today we're going to dive into something really special. We're looking at Bach's Cello Suites, but with a really fascinating twist. We're going to explore how these absolute masterpieces have been reimagined for the bass clarinet and how they offer a brilliant solution to a problem pretty much every player of this instrument has faced. So let's just be real for a second. If you're a bass clarinetist, you've been here. You're staring at the music, all those notes are swimming way down below the staff, and you feel that tiny bit of panic start to set in. You know what I'm talking about. It's a super common struggle, and it's actually the whole reason this edition of the Bach Suites even exists. And it all kicks off with a story. It's a personal one from the book's editor, Michael Drapkin, and I think it's one that a lot of musicians are going to find, well, painfully familiar. It takes us all the way back to his first year at a really top-tier music school. I mean, that quote just says it all, right? Can you imagine the pressure? You're a freshman at the Eastman School of Music, one of the best in the world. The piece is Strauss's Ein Heldenleben, and you are completely, utterly lost. And why? Because the whole darn part was in bass clefs. Well, the stakes got even higher not long after that. Drapkin decides to audition for the Rochester Philharmonic. Now, he's just a freshman, right? And a lot of folks are telling him, no way you're not going to get this. He actually ended up as the runner-up, but he thinks the one thing that tipped the scales was this one moment, sight reading a bass clef excerpt from Prokofiev's Fifth Symphony. He just hadn't nailed that skill yet. So how do you fix a huge gap in your skills like that? Well, sometimes the best advice doesn't come from a professor in a stuffy office, but from a friend. After Drapkin was venting about his audition, he got a piece of advice that would pretty much change everything. And there you have it. It's that simple, that direct. His friend, John Ye, who was studying at Juilliard, just lays it out for him. This wasn't just some casual suggestion. It was like, dude, this is the way. The Bach Cello Suites aren't just incredible music. They're the training ground. They're how you get this done. Drapkin really took that advice to heart. And years later, it became the whole foundation for this publication, which, it turns out, serves two really crucial intertwined purposes for any modern bass clarinetist. First and foremost, number one, bass clef fluency. The music in this edition is kept in the bass clef, period. And the reason is simple. If you have any intention of playing bass clarinet in an orchestra, reading bass clef is not optional. It is a non-negotiable requirement of the job. You have to know it. This book is basically your boot camp. Okay, and the second goal, to create actual, performable solo repertoire. See, this isn't just about running through exercises. This is about taking some of the most profound music ever written and making it sound totally at home, totally natural on the bass clarinet. The goal is to create something that's musically convincing, something you could play in a recital. And hey, as a nice little bonus, you will become an absolute master of the low notes on your instrument. So this brings us to the core idea, the whole philosophy behind the book. This is not just a simple transcription, it's a reimagining. It's a really deep and practical adaptation that shows huge respect for both Bach and the bass clarinet. This guiding principle right here is so important. It's this beautiful balance between artistic integrity, staying true to Bach, and being super practical. It's about making sure the result sounds like music that was meant for a wind instrument, not just some clumsy copy of a string piece. Okay, so here's a look at how that philosophy actually works. A cello can play multiple notes at once, right? A double stop. A bass clarinet? Yeah, not so much. So what's the solution? You imply the harmony with these quick little grace notes or by breaking up the chords. And what about phrasing? A cello's phrasing is driven by the bow. A clarinet's is all about the breath, so the slurs are totally rewritten to feel natural for a wind player. It's all just really smart musical problem solving. All right, let's dive into this next part because this is where we move beyond just the notes on the page. This edition is designed not just to be played, but to be interpreted. It basically hands a massive amount of artistic control right back to you, the performer. So here's the key. It's what's not in the book that's so important. You'll open it up and you'll see there are no breath marks, no detailed dynamics, none of those super specific instructions, and that is 100% on purpose. It's basically an invitation. The book is saying, hey, you are the soloist. You make the call. You decide where a phrase needs to breathe, where it needs to get louder, or where it needs to slow down. And, this isn't some crazy new idea. It's actually a return to the way things were done in the Baroque tradition. Back in Bach's day, composers left a ton of stuff up to the performer. Articulation, dynamics, timing, you name it. It was all part of the performance. This edition is encouraging you to embrace that same kind of artistic freedom. So as we start to wrap up, let's just zoom out for a second. Because learning these pieces on the bass clarinet gives you something so much bigger, so much more profound than just technical skill. This isn't just about getting better at sight reading. Look, yes, you will absolutely master the bass clef. And yes, you will gain this incredible new set of solo pieces for your repertoire. But the real reward, the real prize at the end of this journey, is that you get to enter this incredibly profound musical world. I mean, just let that quote from the musicologist Wilfred Mellers sink in for a moment. A dance of God. That's what's waiting for you here. Through one single, unaccompanied melody line, Bach created something that feels almost divine in its beauty and complexity. And this book, it gives you the keys to join in that dance. So really, the question for any bass clarinetist out there is a pretty simple one. This is a journey that promises technical mastery, incredible artistic freedom, and a direct connection to some of the most beautiful music ever composed. So, you ready to start the dance?